humanity lives its usual measured life. In the White House, major political issues are resolved, and beyond its borders, ordinary people make plans for tomorrow and do not even suspect what changes await them. But one single morning changes everything. For an unknown reason in the city, suddenly die all carriers of the Y chromosome. Simply put, all representatives of the male sex, animals, birds, and people. Among them, and the president of the country. The only men who manage to survive are the young, talentless illusionist Yorick Brown and his pet capuchin ampersand. To take the place of the president in case of emergency, Regina Oliver should. But unfortunately, during the incident, she was outside the country, and from her there is no news. Naturally, the absence of leadership leads to terrible consequences. In the city, riots begin, and women in panic smash the city, not understanding how to live further. In the White House, too, tension is growing. Female employees understand that in 2 weeks they will find themselves in an ambush. Reserves of coal and clean water will end. Food also will not be enough for long. Animals can no longer reproduce, and to grow a sufficient supply in a short time is simply impossible. And this concerns not only one city. This will affect everyone. The reins of power are taken by Senator Jennifer Brown. It is to her that an agent of the president's secret group, Sarah Bergen, with serial number 355, makes her way. The girl reports that she was sent here because of some real threat, but she did not have time to tell in detail about the new task. All this time, Yorick does not leave the apartment so as not to become a target for women. But supplies are gradually running out, and leaving a note for his girlfriend, the man still decides to go out on reconnaissance. At the same time, the senator sends Sarah to search for her daughter Hero, who never got in touch after the catastrophe. But Hero is not in a hurry to hide in a safe place. Instead, she comes to a refugee accommodation point to help those in need, including the wife of her deceased lover. And after that, the girl returns to the lair of her friends. And at first glance, it seems that in the city there are still surviving men, but soon everyone takes their place. These guys were born in a female body, and only thanks to hormones they were able to change sex. Therefore, the unknown disease in no way affected them. In New York, evacuation begins, and heavy military equipment rides through the city. Yorick has to hide so as not to fall into the hands of the military, but still he manages to get into a local bar to leave on the wall another message for his girlfriend. Yorick still hopes that she is alive, and seeing his autograph, the girlfriend will return home. Usually the guy manages to remain unnoticed, but this time everything goes not according to plan. His capuchin escapes, and Yorick has to run after him. The restless amp descends into the flooded subway and disappears into dirty water filled with bodies of the dead. Overcoming disgust, the guy decides to go after him so as not to lose his only friend. At some point, Yorick seems that not far from him stands the same living man, but it seems that it was only a vision. Shining a flashlight around, the guy does not see anything else except dirty water. Getting out of the water, Yorick makes his way into a clothing store to change clothes, but there he fails to remain in the shadows. The owners of the store notice the naked guest and freeze in surprise. One of the women offers to capture the guy and give him to the authorities in exchange for a good bonus, but still pitying the unfortunate, in the end they let Yorick go, giving him a set of clean clothes. The experienced stress literally drives Yorick crazy. Reviewing the recordings on the phone, he remembers the day when in his life appeared Amp, and apparently hearing the voice of the guy, the capuchin, comes out of his hiding place. The pair returns home feeling completely safe there. But hearing how the door opens, Yorick understands that he was wrong. Into the apartment, someone else broke in, and he will have to defend himself. Armed with a guitar, he hides around the corner. And to strike, the guy fails. Sarah turns out to be faster and stronger. She snatches the weapon from the guy's hands, and after a few hours delivers him to his mother, to Senator Brown. The pilots who delivered Yorick to the White House are locked up. Sarah explains this by the fact that they must rest after a long flight, but everyone understands that the matter is different. No one should know that the son of the new president survived. Otherwise, this may cause suspicion of conspiracy and lead to even greater unrest. Yorick himself also is not delighted with this situation. Having rested a little after all he experienced, he decides to look around, but the curiosity of the guy almost leads him to failure. In an abandoned office, he is discovered by Marla, the widow of the deceased president. Jennifer and Sarah, who arrived in time, present everything as if Marla had mental problems. At this time, Yorick manages to hide, but over the conspirators hangs a threat, and Sarah insists on that the guy needs to be taken away from the White House. The daughter of the deceased president tries to find out what exactly saw at night her mother. Jennifer assures the girl that it was no more than a hallucination, but Kimberly suspects that who took the post of President Brown to her lies. Jennifer Brown instructs assistants to find a geneticist who will be able to examine Yorick and find out what happened on the planet and why he and the capuchin managed to survive. The president plans to bring specialists here, but Sarah continues to stand on her own. It is too dangerous, and they must take the guy out of the city. The agent is ready to take on this dangerous mission, but to do this needs in the shortest time. At this same time, in Israel comes to her senses an injured woman. As soon as she opens her eyes and learns that all men on earth died, the woman declares that the post of President of America now must occupy she. Nora Brady, a former advisor of the president, is forced to wander, together with her little daughter Mackenzie. Having been left without means of existence and having lost husband and sons, the woman with difficulty takes herself in hand, but still decides to fight in order to save herself and her daughter. In the White House, they learn that Regina Oliver, the main candidate for the post of president, is alive. This leads to a split among the employees. One part remains loyal to Jennifer Brown, and the second stands on the side of Regina Oliver and Kimberly, the daughter of the president. With such a situation, Jennifer has to agree with Sarah and let go of her son to a more safe place. To this mission, the agent connects the pilots who delivered the guy here, and as motivation, she hands them heroic stars, promising eternal glory in case of successful completion. The only way secretly to take Yorick out of the building is a cart with bodies. The guy tries to refuse and think of something else, but Sarah remains unyielding. They cannot take risks, and Yorick will have to endure. The agent successfully takes the young man out and transfers him into a helicopter. But to control it, she intends herself. The second helicopter, on board of which only girls pilots, must fly ahead as a distracting maneuver. Only just as soon as the planes rise to the necessary height and disappear from view, the escort helicopter loses control and scatters into many burning fragments. This leads Yorick into horror, and only Sarah keeps calm, knowing that such is the price of silence of the girls' pilots. After several hours of path, Sarah and Yorick land in the forest to rest a little. The agent does not withstand and asks the guy to undress after the trip in the cart with bodies. From him smells not very good, and it would be better to wash the clothes before the further journey. The sister of Yorick Hero goes searching for a safe place in company with her friend Half-Man. On the way, the pair goes into a plundered by marauders store to try to find at least some food. But instead, they find their frightened Nora and Mackenzie. Examining the leg of the girl, Hero notices a serious infected wound, and she asks Nora to allow her to render first aid so that they can move further. To the camp of Sarah and Yorick attack wild female robbers. The agent tries to distract them and send away, but so as not to risk, Yorick puts on a mask and, waving a stick, frightens the girls, fearing that they will ruin their plan. The guests leave, but to remain on the spot the pair does not dare. They reach the nearest city and exchange for a bike, taken from the helicopter generator, and a couple of grenades. But while Sarah inspects and checks the transport means, Yorick, forgetting about all rules of safety, runs away into a deserted place, deciding that he saw in the crowd his girlfriend Beth. The stupid act leads the guy into a trap. He is surrounded by women police who tear off from Yorick the mask and learn his secret. Sarah has to interfere to protect the friend, and having beaten him off, she takes away the guy further away. But as soon as is given a free minute, Sarah stops the bike to bring the loser to his senses and remind him about the importance of the mission, which he just nearly ruined. Hero, her friend, and their new companions come to overnight stay in an empty female shelter. The girl confesses to Nora that her daughter has serious problems. She needs antibiotics, but pharmacies long ago were plundered, as well as empty houses. From fear and helplessness, Nora goes to the street so that the daughter would not see her tears. But there the woman faces a new trial. In the yard appear horsewomen who call themselves the mistresses of the house, and it seems they are not very glad to the uninvited guests. The rest of the visitors the mistresses also discover very quickly. They transfer them into the stable in order to get rid of extra mouths. Nora notices something that can save them. One of the horsewomen turns out to be wounded, and Nora asks Hero to examine the girl and render her help. The paramedic tries to do something, but the bullet wound turns out too severe, and at hand there is nothing except tape and a pair of rubber gloves. Several hours of operation do not bring result. The girl becomes worse, and the leader of the female gang, Roxanna, decides to end her suffering. Contrary to Nora's worries, Roxanna turns out to be kind and understanding. She invites the guests to stay for the night in their house and promises to give antibiotics that are needed for Mackenzie. And when the company follows the leader, Hero understands that antibiotics are only a small part of the gang's supplies. They own an entire shopping mall, packed with food. Sarah and Yorick continue to make their way to Boston to find the geneticist Allison Mad. But at the entrance to the city, the pair meets a checkpoint and many armed soldiers with tear gas. Sarah suggests to split up. She will distract the military, while Yorick and his monkey bypass the ambush. Having met with Boston colleagues, Sarah learns that the absence of men in the world in no way rid it of crime. Whole squads of rebels constantly attack Harvard, trying to get inside and find answers to their questions. The plan works. While Sarah talks to the soldiers, Yorick penetrates into some headquarters to hide from the threat. But even there he falls into the hands of rebels, risking to be exposed. The guy is lucky. The rebels take him for a trance and allow him to go, telling him where he can find his own, get the necessary hormones, and hide. Finally, Yorick and Sarah find the apartment of Allison Mann, and then her office in Harvard. The geneticist is not very glad of the visit of strange strangers, but as soon as Yorick removes the mask, she immediately understands why they came. Mann understands that she must study the guy and his capuchin, but to do this in Harvard is already impossible. There is no more equipment, nor any samples for work. Therefore, she offers the only possible option, rush to San Francisco to use the laboratory there. Sarah agrees to another dangerous journey, but for some reason, she secretly from Yorick breaks the radio, depriving them of the only possibility to contact the president. This breakdown the agent uses as a pretext to leave. She asks her friend to look after the geneticist, while she finds another way to contact the White House. Meanwhile, among politicians again begin disputes about the division of power, which worry not all. One of Jennifer's assistants, Kristen, becomes unwell, and she thinks that she lost the child. But the ultrasound shows the opposite. The pregnancy continues to develop, and quite possibly inside develops a boy. Sarah penetrates into a stranger's house, whose mistress turns out no less skilled than the secret agent. Between the girls flares up a scuffle, but when they still allow each other to speak, it turns out that both intruders work for one organization, and they came here for the same thing: to find the mistress of the house and put a bullet in her. Having learned about the fall of the helicopters, Jennifer does not find a place for herself, but Kristen tries to calm the boss. The search group reported that they found the bodies of only 2 pilots. Relief comes not for long. The president understands that most likely the crash was arranged by Sarah, eliminating in such a way unnecessary witnesses, and she becomes scared. Yorick is in the company of a dangerous criminal, and it is unknown what she will do with him. In the White House, they deliver Regina Oliver, claiming the post of president. Using this, Kimberly prepares a coup to get rid of the hated Jennifer Brown and later seize power. Allison Mann admits to Yorick that she is not sure of the success of the research. The girl does not know whether they will have enough resources to find the cause of the death of men and reproduce their kind. But whatever happens, Yorick is waiting for hard times, and he and his capuchin soon will become experimental samples. Sarah returns to the office and offers to set out. She for some reason lies to Yorick, telling supposedly she spoke with his mother, and they have permission for the trip to San Francisco. The trio sets out on the road, not knowing that through the city rides a military patrol with Sarah's photograph. But while the girls are waiting for a safe window between the release of gas, Yorick decides to visit the place that the rebels told him about. The community of people with changed sex, in which he can remove the mask and not be afraid to show a male face. Sarah comes into a rage from another trick of Yorick, but soon it becomes clear that the main danger carries not the guy, but she herself. The patrol arrives in the community and shows everyone her picture. The company manages to escape from under the nose of the seekers and hide in a church. Sarah has to confess that no connection with the White House she has, and all decisions she makes independently. Hero, her friend, and Nora with her daughter continue to live in Roxanna's commune. At first glance, it seems that the company got into a real paradise. There is food, medicines, and safety. But when Nora tries to take her daughter away from the next meeting of radical feminists, Roxanna comes into rage. She reminds that she sheltered the guests, and that means they must follow her rules and obediently listen to everything she says. Moreover, Roxanna tries to do everything so that little Mackenzie hates men and joins their movement. Another such meeting is interrupted by a battle alarm. Women build barricades and, armed, stand in defense of their supermarket. The enemies turn out to be a group of unfortunate women with a little girl. Roxanna goes out to meet them, but she no longer accepts outsiders into the community. Not even the child causes compassion in her, and she drives the refugees away, refusing them help. Allison finds in Sarah's things a leaflet with information about the search for the agent. She suggests Yorick run away, so as not to get exposed because of Sarah, but the guy refuses to betray his friend, despite the fact that she hides something from them. In the evening, Roxanna gathers her community for some solemn event. At the very beginning, she tells the audience about Laura, one of the members of the movement, which Roxanna proudly calls the Amazons. At first, everything looks very innocent, but at the height of the celebration, Hero and her companions begin to understand that something strange is happening here. Laura is first sprinkled with earth, then lowered into a bath, and when she appears on the surface, everyone begins to call the girl by a new name, Athena. Deciding that all this is maximally strange, Sam, Hero's trans friend, leaves the hall. One of the members of the movement catches up with him to warn him against conflicts with Roxanna, but by this the girl only creates problems for herself. She is called in for a conversation. Jennifer is reported that the search group spotted Sarah and is preparing an ambush for her. The president begins to worry that the scouts will find her son, but by this moment Allison still manages to persuade the guy to leave, and the pair hides in the forest. Tension increases. The trackers try to catch Yorick and Allison, but Sarah neutralizes the soldiers and destroys their radios, transmitting the signal to the White House. At night, Nora wakes up from screams. Trying not to make noise, the woman looks out from the room and sees how a crowd of Amazons punishes a girl for talking with Sam. The smiling beauties turn out to be ruthless, but she decides not to interfere. She wants her daughter to be safe, and for the sake of this, she is ready to accept the rules of the game. Sarah finds a van, and the company continues the way to San Francisco. Despite Yorick and Allison's attempt to escape, this naturally brings discord into the company, and the agent no longer trusts the companions, and this leads to another trouble. Sarah falls asleep at the wheel, and the car flies off the road. Getting out of the car, Allison tries to find Sarah, but on the driver's seat, she is not there. Instead, nearby at once appears a military column of vehicles, which have no relation to the White House. Jennifer is reported about this incident, and also that among the fugitives there was a man. While the president tries to divert suspicion from her son, he comes to his senses in an unfamiliar house, in one bed with just as an unfamiliar woman. Getting out of bed, the guy goes in search of his monkey, but ends up in the society of people who brought him here. The inhabitants of the ranch, where Yorick was taken, turn out to be quite peaceful, only they do not tell Yorick where his friends went. And the girls at this time wake up in a prison cell, completely not understanding where they are and how to get out from there. Jennifer appeals to the surviving residents of the city with a request to agree to evacuation and not to arrange riots. In the crowd, the president notices the familiar face of Beth, the girlfriend of her son, who all this time was in the hospital. While the president talks with Beth, Kimberly continues secretly to agitate Regina to overthrow the imposter and take her place. Despite the friendly atmosphere, Yorick is not released. On the contrary, he is sent into the cell to the girls to decide what to do with the captives further. To all that happened is added the news that in Greece a new strain of flu was discovered. Jennifer immediately engages in solving this problem, but she also has to solve another. Marla arrives in the command center to find out whether the rumors about Yorick are true. The waiting in the cell seems so painful that between Sarah and Yorick again a quarrel flares up. But the couple ends their quarrel as soon as the heavy door opens, and on the threshold appears one of the residents of the settlement. She informs the captives that a decision about them has been made. They are allowed to stay until Sarah becomes better, and after that they will be taken out of the city, and they will be able to continue their way to San Francisco. The owners of the ranch allocate for Sam a separate bedroom, but before falling asleep, she asks Yorick to be careful and not to trust anyone. But the guy is sure that the agent exaggerates the danger. In the settlement, it turns out to be quite fun, and everyone looks very peaceful and kind. Moreover, they have plenty of food. There is electricity and water, which have long been absent in other regions. Marla's grief turns out to be so strong that the woman decides to end her suffering. Climbing onto the roof, the widow of the former president of the country makes a step into emptiness to reunite sooner with her husband and sons. For her daughter, she leaves a note with apologies and a wish to cope. Meanwhile, Beth returns to the city, but not to the apartment to her friends, as she told Jennifer, but to the truck to the rebels, preparing a raid on the White House. Kate, one of the Amazons, tries to leave the group, but Roxanna reminds her of the strict rules, firing a bullet into the back of the runaway. But to the other inhabitants, Roxanna does not confess this. She presents everything as if nomads attacked the girl. And so that this does not happen again, Roxanna sends everyone to intensive firearms training. Besides, Roxanna is going to send the guests away. Nora learns about this from one of the members, and she rushes to the leader to beg her to allow her and Mackenzie to stay. No persuasion works on Roxanna. She gives Nora a couple more days, after which the woman and her daughter must leave the commune. She recalls how she managed to find this place and create the community of Amazons. And from the first day, Roxanna was here the only leader. During this time, nothing has changed. Roxanna continues to dictate her conditions and instill in the inhabitants of the community that beyond its borders they are awaited by danger and death. She every day conducts meetings, at which the members must remember all the vile deeds of men and make sure that Roxanna is the only one who gives them safety. Sam is not allowed to these meetings, and he prepares to leave, to occupy the guest houses on the lake shore and to found his own commune. But Hero has already fallen under the influence of Roxanna. The girl is not sure that she wants to leave. Witness of the emotional conversation of friends becomes Roxanna. She again whispers into Hero's ears, convincing the girl that even not a real man cannot speak to her like that. It all ends with the pair splitting up, and at night Roxanna drives out Sam, allowing him to take a little food. In the morning, Roxanna does not tell Hero that it was she who let Sam go, but she does everything to calm the girl. And in honor of Hero, they even arrange a celebration of farewell to everything male. The holiday ends with a noisy, cheerful party, at which everyone rests except Nora. The woman still fails to blend into the group. And to take revenge for this, she sets fire to them all while everyone sleeps. The Amazons manage to save themselves, but their supplies are destroyed, and Nora pretends that she has nothing to do with this. She gets lost in the crowd, feigning grief. Satisfied with her act, Nora prepares for a night escape. She goes into the forest to check her supplies. But on the riverbank, the woman finds a police car stuffed with bodies. It becomes obvious that Roxanna is not at all who she pretends to be, and Nora decides to use this for her own interests. Choosing a moment when they can stay alone, Nora tells Roxanna about her find, and she promises to remain silent. But in exchange for privileges in the community, they with her daughter must always have the best food, safety, and a roof over their heads. But as payment, Nora offers not only her silence. She is ready to do so that even after devastation, people do not leave Roxanna, and she can remain the head of the female brotherhood. Roxanna agrees to Nora's conditions. She gathers the people and gives a loud motivational speech, promising that they will cope with all difficulties and conquer the world. Sarah begins to recover and even resumes training, but she is still haunted by hallucinations and visions. Despite this, she carefully watches Yorick, who, it seems, has again lost vigilance and trusted too much the inhabitants of the village. Sarah's suspicions intensify when one of the residents pesters her with questions about the beacon found in the car. The girl refuses to say what it is, but she clearly does not want Yorick to discover this device. On Roxanna's assignment, Hero finds another community, a group of women who organized a memorial in memory of men. Hiding behind good intentions and protection of women's rights, Roxanna organizes a raid on the community to take their food and other needed things. The Amazons arrange real hell for the residents of the memorial city. Nora understands that everything is going not according to plan. Instead of taking food and drinking water, the savages simply destroy all this, enjoying the process. The woman does not like this, and she tries to reason with Roxanna, but the mad founder of the squad believes that she is doing everything right. Fully recovered after illness, Regina Oliver prepares to overthrow Jennifer, and she asks her associates to be ready for a coup in 30 minutes. For support, she turns to Kimberly, but after the death of her mother, the girl loses heart and no longer wants to participate in changes. At the same time, under the government building, Beth's team lays a charge. Jennifer Brown is summoned to the command center to be presented with an accusation of concealing information about Yorick. To protect her pregnant assistant, Jennifer has to admit that her son in fact survived. She tells also that the guy is sent to the geneticist in the name of saving the world. But whether he reached the place, no one knows. Even those who just the day before were on Jennifer's side take the side of Regina. They ask the deceiver to lay down authority and transfer power to the real president. But discussion of this question has to be postponed, as in the building an explosion thunders, and, most likely, into it penetrated outsiders. Rebels break into the building under the leadership of Beth. Making their way through underground tunnels, they encounter politicians, and the president's security service has to lay down weapons and surrender. Jennifer recognizes Beth, despite the balaclava, but the girl manages to give a signal so that the woman keeps silent and does not expose her. Regina's desire to be president disappears immediately as soon as danger appears. Therefore, Jennifer Brown has to take responsibility and communicate with the rebels, responding to their demands. Rebels lead out hostages from the control center to leave the building together with them and not to encounter the feral townspeople. And at that very moment, Regina still begins to prove that president here is she and all must listen only to her. In a fit of anger, she accuses all of betrayal, tries to give away her friends, including Kimberly, and, cherry on the cake, declares that the son of Jennifer Brown is alive. One of the rebels shuts up the hysterical woman with a bullet in the forehead, but this does not cancel what she already said. And most important, this finally confuses the plans of the group. Long stay in the settlement leads to the fact that a hunt for Yorick opens. Women missed male attention, and they would not mind spending time with a survivor. Using the fact that the friend for now is busy, and also Allison establishes acquaintance with locals, Sarah hides in the forest to destroy the tracker, which all this time was transmitting signal from her. The rebels do not manage to lead the hostages out of the building. The second enemy group launches through ventilation tear gas. In the corridors, shooting begins. People in panic scatter in different directions, and those who do not manage to hide fall dead on the floor. Beth secretly removes Jennifer's handcuffs and tries to lead her away. To take with her pregnant assistant, the president does not manage. But Kristen does not remain alone. For her stands up Kimberly. Through the underground parking, the girls manage to make their way to the exit. Among personal belongings in the memorial town, Roxanna finds a notebook with names of all surviving men. Now the leader gets a new goal, to find them all and destroy, to free the planet. To start, the Amazons decide with the guy who already came across them earlier and who lives now in the village nearby. His portrait Nora shows to Roxanna, and it, of course, turns out to be Yorick Brown. Beth gives Jennifer her uniform, and before parting, the president tells the girl that Regina's words were true. Yorick is alive. Roxanna and Nora set out to search the village, in which, according to their assumption, lives the surviving man. But as if foreseeing the soon arrival of guests, Sarah urges the friends to move further. The news about departure does not please Yorick, but to argue with the agent he is not ready. Only here hardly will the company manage to disappear. Roxanna already found the estate, and she prepares the squad for assault in the coming hours. During gathering in Roxanna's camp, two nomads burst in, and from them Hero learns about the death of the president. Not knowing that for this post claimed someone else besides her mother, the girl thinks that it is about her, but in fact Jennifer is alive. Having mourned her daughter, she prepares for escape together with Beth. As for the president, it is impossible to stay in the city. She has long been hunted. At night, into Jennifer's house sneaks Sam. The woman immediately recognizes her daughter's friend, and together the company tries to escape, but the house turns out to be surrounded. Christy and Kimberly find refuge in an empty barn. Waking early in the morning, Kimberly tells her friend that she knows how all of them can be saved. They need Yorick to continue reproduction. Yorick, apparently, agrees with them because he spends this night in the bed with one of the village inhabitants who long ago had her eye on him. The idol is destroyed by the appearance of the Amazons headed by the mad Roxanna. They break into the city streets and demand to give them the man. Sarah jumps from bed at the sounds of shots. She instructs Yorick's new girlfriend to lead the guy away, and herself remains in the house to repel the attack. Understanding the numerical advantage of the opponents, Sarah comes out with raised hands, pretending that she is afraid of the guests. With herself, she leads out the local trans, giving him for that very man. On the main street, a serious shootout begins. Its sounds distract Sarah's convoy, and the girl disarms the opponents and escapes. The battle, even little Mackenzie joins, trying to prove to Roxanna that she not in vain occupies a place in the community. At the same time, Hero catches up with the group of fugitives. She shoots at them until Yorick turns around. But, recognizing her brother, the girl freezes, and Yorick's girlfriend releases a bullet into her, not guessing that this is the native sister of her boyfriend. The wounded Hero manages to tell her brother about the death of the mother and that the Amazons want to destroy him. She allows Yorick to leave, and for this, she eliminates one of her fellow tribeswomen. The shootout in the city is in full swing, but unexpectedly Nora raises her hands and comes out into the center, declaring that they surrender. This drives Roxanna into rage, but to everyone it is already indifferent. Hero tells Nora that Yorick is alive. This gives the women strength. And, returning to their camp, Nora decides to depose Roxanna, opening the gathered girl's eyes. But words do not work. Roxanna continues to provoke Nora until she gets from her a bullet into the chest. From surprise, the Amazons raise their weapons, but find for them comforting words. At her side, shoulder to shoulder, stands Hero, and from this moment a new leader appears. Sarah passes several kilometers and finally finds Yorick and Allison. The guy is depressed that he lost all his close ones, and he no longer has meaning to live. Listening to the friend, Sarah admits that she very well understands him. In childhood, she also lost her parents. Besides, Sarah tells Yorick that if he wants, he can leave. She obeyed Jennifer, and means after her death their contract is terminated. But the guy refuses, and he asks Sarah to become his trainer, so that he stops being a burden and could protect himself. Meanwhile, Jennifer, Beth, and Sam find themselves locked in an empty room under the watch of cameras. The company does not know that they were captured by Sarah's commander from the Secret Service. Following the beacon signal, Sarah brings the friends to a fueled car. Besides fuel in the car, there is everything for conducting research and a map with the marked route.